Compulsive overeating. I receive a lot of letters from people with weight problems. They go on diets that last 2 or 3 days or weeks, and then they stop. They feel guilty about falling off their diets. And instead of recognizing that they did what they could at the time, they get angry at themselves and feel guilty. Then to punish themselves, because guilt always seeks punishment, they go out and eat foods that are not good for their bodies. If they could acknowledge that for the 2 weeks that they followed a particular regime, they were doing something wonderful for their bodies, and stop laying guilt trips on themselves, they would begin to break the pattern. They could also begin to say, I used to have a problem with weight. Now I allow myself to be the perfect weight for me. And the pattern would start to shift inside. Yet we don't want to concentrate on the food issue too much, for that is not where the problem lies. Overeating has always meant a need for protection. When you feel insecure or frightened, you pad yourself with a layer of safety. Weight has nothing to do with food. Most of you spend a lifetime being angry at yourself for being fat. What a waste of energy. Instead, realize there is something going on in your life that is making you feel unsafe and insecure. It could be your work, your spouse, your sexuality, or your life in general, or early belief patterns. If you are overweight, put the food weight issue aside and work on the pattern that says, I need protection because I'm insecure. It's amazing how our cells respond to our mental patterns. When the need for protection is gone, or when we start feeling secure, the fat will melt off. I have noticed in my own life that when I'm not feeling safe, I will gain some weight. When my life is going so fast and I'm doing so much and I'm spreading myself all over the place, I feel a need for protection, a need for security. So I say, okay, Louise, it's time to work on safety. I want you to really know that you are safe and it's okay and you can do all this stuff and you can be at all these places and you can have all that's happening right now and you are safe and I love you. When I feel secure again, the weight melts away. Weight is only the outer effect of a fear that is inside you. When you look in the mirror and see the fat person staring back, remember that you are looking at the result of your old thinking. When you start to change your thinking, you are planting a seed for what will become true for you. What you choose to think today will create your new figure tomorrow. One of the best books on releasing excess weight is The Only Diet There Is by Sandra Ray. It's all about dieting from negative thinking, and she shows you step by step how to do it. Self-help groups. Self-help groups have become the new social form. I see this as a very positive move. These programs do tremendous good. People with similar problems getting together, not to whine and complain, but to find ways to work through these issues and improve the quality of their lives. There is now a group for almost every problem you can think of. Many of them are listed in the phone book under Community Services in the front of your yellow pages. I know you can find one that is right for you. Many churches now hold group meetings. You could even go to the local health food store, one of my favorites, and see what is listed on their bulletin board. If you are serious about changing your life, you will find the way. The 12-step programs are everywhere. 12-step programs have been around for some time, and they have developed a format that really works and brings about wonderful results. Their Al-Anon program for people who live with or were raised by addicted people is one of the best groups for all sorts of people. Feelings are our inner gauge. When growing up in a troubled or dysfunctional family, we learn to avoid conflict whenever possible, and this results in the denial of our feelings. We often do not trust others to meet our needs, so we don't even ask for help. We are convinced that we must be strong enough to handle things ourselves. The only problem is that we fail to be in touch with our own feelings. Feelings are our most helpful link to our relationship with ourselves, others, and the world around us, and they are an indication of what's working or not working in our lives. Shutting them off only leads to more complex problems and physical illnesses. What you can feel, you can heal. If you don't allow yourself to feel what is going on inside of you, you won't know where to begin the healing process. On the other hand, many of us seem to go through life always feeling guilty or jealous or fearful or sad. We develop habit patterns that keep repeating the same experiences that we say we don't want to have. If you keep feeling angry or sad or fearful or jealous and don't get in touch with the underlying cause, you will continue to create more anger, sad, fear, etc. When we stop feeling like victims, we are able to take our power back. We must be willing to learn the lesson so the problem can disappear. When we trust the process of life and our spiritual connection with the universe, we can dissolve our angers and fears as soon as they appear. We can trust in life and know that everything is happening in divine right order and in the perfect time-space sequence. Chapter 7. Moving beyond the pain. We are far more than our bodies and personalities. The inner spirit is always beautiful and lovable, no matter how our outer appearances may change. The pain of death. It's wonderful to be positive. It's also wonderful to acknowledge what you are feeling. Nature has given you feelings to get you through certain experiences, and to deny them causes more pain. Remember, death is not a failure. Everyone dies. It's part of the process of life. When someone you love dies, the mourning process takes at least a year. So give yourself that space. It's difficult to have to go through all the holidays and seasons, Valentine's Day, your birthday, your anniversary, Christmas, etc. So be very gentle with yourself and let yourself grieve. There are no rules, so don't make any for yourself. It's also okay to get angry and have hysterics when someone dies. You can't pretend it doesn't hurt. You want to give your feelings an outlet. Let yourself cry. Look in the mirror and scream, "It isn't fair," or whatever you feel inside. Again, let it out. Otherwise, you will create problems for your body. You want to take care of yourself the best you can, and I know it's not always easy. Those of us who have been working with people with AIDS find that the grieving process becomes ongoing. It's the same as the grieving process in wartime. There are too many onslaughts to the emotional nervous system to handle. Many times I reach out to special friends and dissolve into hysterics when it all becomes too much. It was much easier when my mother died. I felt the natural completion of her 91-year cycle. Though I grieved, I had no anger or rage at injustice or untimeliness. Wars and epidemics bring up tremendous frustration at the seeming unfairness of it all. Although grieving takes time, sometimes you feel like you're in a bottomless pit. If you are still grieving after a few years, then you are wallowing in it. It becomes an addiction. You need to forgive and release the other person and yourself. Remember, we don't lose anyone when they die because we never owned them in the first place. If you are having a difficult time letting go, there are several things you can do. First of all, I suggest you do some meditations with the person who is gone. No matter what he or she thought or did while they were alive, when they leave the planet, a veil lifts and they see life very clearly. So they no longer have the fears and the limiting beliefs that they had when they were here. If you are grieving a lot, they would probably tell you not to worry because all is well. In your meditations, ask the person for help to get you through this period and tell them that you love them. Don't judge yourself for not being with the person or doing enough for the person while they were alive. That's just adding guilt to your grief. Some of you use this time as an excuse for not getting on with your own life. Some of you would like to leave the planet too. Or, for some of you, the death of someone you know and love brings up your own fear of death. Use this time to do inner work on yourself so you can release some of your own stuff. A lot of sadness comes to the surface upon the death of a loved one. Let yourself feel the sadness. You need to get to a point where you feel safe enough to let the old pains come up. If you would allow yourself 2 or 3 days of crying, much of the sadness and guilt would disappear. If you need to, find a therapist or a group to help you feel safe enough so that you can release the emotions. Another suggestion is to say affirmations like, I love you and I set you free. You are free and I am free. One woman was having a very difficult time letting go of the anger she felt towards an aunt who was very ill. She was terrified that her aunt would pass away and she would not be able to communicate how she really felt about the past. She didn't want to speak with the aunt because she felt all choked up inside. I suggested to her that she work with a therapist, for one-on-one work can be so helpful. When we are stuck in any area, it is an act of love for ourselves to reach out for help. There are many types of therapists all over who are experienced in these situations. You don't need to go for a long time, just a short while, so that you can get through your difficult period. There are also many grief support groups. It might be helpful for you to join one because it would assist you as you go through the process. Understanding our pain. Many of us live from day to day with unrelieved pain. It may be a small part of our lives, or it may take up a large, unbearable portion of it. But what is pain? Most of us agree that it is something we would like to be free of. Let's look at what we can learn from it. Where does it come from? What is it trying to tell us? The dictionary defines pain as an unpleasant or distressing sensation due to bodily injury or disorder, as well as a mental or emotional suffering or torment. Since pain is an outgrowth of both mental and physical dis-ease, it is clear that both the mind and the body are susceptible to it. I recently saw a wonderful example as I watched 2 little girls playing in a park. The first child raised her hand to playfully slap her friend on the arm. Before she was able to connect, the other little girl said, "Ow!" And the first little girl looked at her and said, "Why did you say ow? I haven't even touched you yet." To which her friend quickly replied, "Well, I knew it was going to hurt." In this instant, the mental pain presumed the expected physical pain. Pain comes to us in many forms: a scratch, a bump, a bruise, dis-ease, uneasy sleep, a threat, a knotty feeling in your stomach, a numbing sensation in your arm or leg. Sometimes it hurts a lot, sometimes only a little, but we know it's there. In most cases, it's trying to tell us something. At times, the message is obvious. A sour stomach experienced during the work week, but not on the weekend, may indicate a need for an attitude change or for a job change. And many of us know the significance of the pain that occurs after a night of excessive drinking. Whatever the message, we must remember that the human body is a wonderfully constructed piece of machinery. It tells us if there are problems, but only if we are willing to listen. Unfortunately, many of us do not take or make the time to listen. Pain is actually one of the body's last resort messages to tell us that something is wrong in our lives. We are really off track somewhere. The body is always aspiring for optimum health, no matter what we do to it. However, if we abuse our bodies tremendously, we contribute to the conditions of our dis-ease. When we first feel pain, what do? We usually run to the medicine cabinet or to the drugstore, and we take a pill. In effect, we say to the body, "Shut up, I don't want to hear you." The body will quiet down for a little bit. Then the whisperings return, and this time a little louder. Maybe we go to the doctor for an injection or a prescription, or we do something else. But at some point we have to pay attention to what is going on, because we may have a full-blown dis-ease of some sort. Even at that point, some people still want to play victim and still don't listen. Others awaken to what's going on and are willing to make changes. It's okay. We all learn in different ways. The answers may be as simple as getting a good night's sleep, or not going out 7 nights a week, or not pushing yourself at work. Allow yourself to listen to your body, because it does want to get well. Your body wants to be healthy, and you can cooperate with it. When I first feel pain or discomfort, I quiet myself. I trust that my higher power will let me know what needs to be changed in my life, so that I can be free from this dis-ease. In these quiet times, I visualize the most perfect natural setting, with my favorite flowers growing in abundance all around me. I can feel and smell the sweet warm air as it blows gently across my face, and I concentrate on relaxing every muscle in my body. When I feel that I have reached a state of complete relaxation, I simply ask my inner wisdom, how am I contributing to this problem? What is it that I need to know? What areas of my life are in need of change? Then I breathe and let the answers pour over me. The answers may not come at that moment, but I know that they will be revealed to me soon. I know that whatever changes are needed are the right ones for me, and that I will be completely safe no matter what unfolds before me. Sometimes you wonder how you can accomplish such changes. How will I live? What about the children? How will I pay my bills? Again, trust your higher power to show you the means to live a plentiful, pain-free life. I also suggest that you make changes one step at a time. Lao Tse said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step." One small step added to another can create significant major advancements. Once you go about making your changes, please remember that the pain does not necessarily disappear overnight, and yet it may. It has taken time for pain to surface. Therefore, it may take some time to recognize that it is no longer needed. Be gentle with yourself. Don't gauge your progress by someone else's. You are unique and have your own way of handling your life. Put your trust in your higher self in order to free yourself of all physical and emotional pain. Forgiveness is the key to freedom. I often ask clients, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? We all have opinions on who was right and who was wrong according to our own perceptions, and we can all find ways to justify our feelings. We want to punish others for what they did to us. However, we are the ones running the story over and over in our own minds. It is foolish for us to punish ourselves in the present because someone hurt us in the past. To release the past, we want to be willing to forgive, even if we don't know how. Forgiveness means giving up our hurtful feelings and just letting the whole thing go. A state of non-forgiveness actually destroys something within ourselves. No matter what avenue of spirituality you follow, you will usually find that forgiveness is an enormous issue at any time, but most particularly when there is an illness. When we are ill, we really need to look around and see who it is we need to forgive. And usually the very person who we think we will never forgive is the one we need to forgive the most. Not forgiving someone else doesn't harm the other person in the slightest, but it plays havoc with us. The issues aren't theirs, the issues are ours. The grudges and hurts you feel have to do with forgiving yourself, not someone else. Affirm that you are totally willing to forgive everyone. I am willing to free myself from the past. I am willing to forgive all those who may ever have harmed me, and I forgive myself for having harmed others. If you think of anyone who may have harmed you in any way at any point in your life, bless that person with love and release them, and then dismiss the thought. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't forgiven the people who have hurt me. I would not want to punish myself today for what they did to me in the past. I'm not saying that it would be easy. It's just that now I can look back at that stuff and say, oh yes, that's something that happened. However, I don't live there anymore, and it is not the same as condoning their behavior. If you feel ripped off by another, know that nobody can take anything from you that is rightfully yours. If it belongs to you, it will return to you at the right time. If something doesn't come back to you, it wasn't meant to. You need to accept that and go on with your life. To become free, you need to get out of your self-righteous resentment and off your pity pot. I love this expression, which originated with Alcoholics Anonymous, because it is such a wonderful, accurate description. When you are sitting on your pity pot, you are this helpless person who has no power at all. In order to have power, you want to stand on your own 2 feet and take responsibility. Take a moment and close your eyes, if you can, and imagine a beautiful stream of water in front of you. Take the old painful experience, the hurt, and the unforgiveness, and put the whole incident in the stream. See it begin to dissolve and drift downstream until it totally dissipates and disappears. You can do this as often as you want. This is a time for compassion and healing. Go within and connect with that part of yourself that knows how to heal. You are incredibly capable. Be willing to go to new levels to find capabilities of which you were not aware, not just to cure dis-ease, but to truly heal yourself on all possible levels. To make yourself whole in the deepest sense of the word. To accept every part of yourself and every experience you have ever had. And to know that it is all part of the tapestry of your life this time around. I love Emmanuel's book. There is a passage in it which has a good message. The question to Emmanuel is, how do we experience painful circumstances without becoming embittered by them? And Emmanuel's reply is, by seeing them as lessons and not as retribution. Trust life, my friends. However far afield life seems to take you, this trip is necessary. You have come to traverse a wide terrain of experience in order to verify where truth lies and where your distortion is in that terrain. You will then be able to return to your home center, your soul self, refreshed and wiser. If only we could understand that all of our so-called problems are just opportunities for us to grow and to change, and that most of them come from the vibrations that we have been giving off. All we really need to do is change the way we think, be willing to dissolve the resentment, and be willing to forgive. Part 3. Loving yourself. Can you remember the last time you were in love? Your heart went, ah! It was such a wonderful feeling. It's the same thing with loving yourself, except that you will never leave. Once you have your love for yourself, it's with you for the rest of your life. So you want to make it the best relationship you can have. Chapter 8. How to Love Yourself. When you forgive and let go, not only does a huge weight drop off your shoulders, but the doorway to your own self-love opens. For many of you who have been working on loving yourselves, and for those of you who are just beginning, I'm going to explore some ways to help you learn how to love yourselves. I call it my 10 steps, and I have sent thousands of people this list over the years. Loving yourself is a wonderful adventure. It's like learning to fly. Imagine if we all had the power to fly at will. How exciting it would be. Let's begin to love ourselves right now. Many of us seem to suffer from a lack of self-esteem at one level or another. It's very difficult for us to love ourselves because we have all these so-called faults inside us that we feel make it impossible to love ourselves exactly as we are. Usually, we make loving ourselves conditional, and then when we are involved in relationships, we make loving the other person conditional also. We've all heard that we really can't love someone else until we love ourselves. So now that we have seen the barriers we have set up for ourselves, how do we catapult to the next step? 1. Probably the most important key is to stop criticizing yourself. I've talked about criticism before. If we tell ourselves that we are okay, no matter what is going on, we can make changes in our lives easily. It is when we make ourselves bad that we have great difficulty. We all change, everyone. Every day is a new day, and we do things a little differently than we did the day before. Our ability to adapt and flow with the process of life is part of our power. Those who have come from dysfunctional homes often become super responsible and have gotten in the habit of judging themselves unmercifully. They have grown up with tension and anxiety. The message they get as children of dysfunctional homes is, there must be something wrong with me. Think for a moment about the words you use when scolding yourself. Some of the phrases people tell me are stupid, bad boy, bad girl, useless, careless, dumb, ugly, worthless, sloppy, dirty, etc. Are these the same words you use now when you're describing yourself? There is a tremendous need to build self-worth and value in ourselves, because when we feel not good enough, we find ways to keep ourselves miserable. We create illness or pain in our bodies, We procrastinate about things that would benefit us. We mistreat our bodies with food, alcohol, and drugs. We are all insecure in some ways because we are human. Let us learn not to pretend that we are perfect. Having to be perfect only puts immense pressure on ourselves, and it prevents us from looking at areas of our lives that need healing. Instead, we could discover our creative distinctions, our individualities, and appreciate ourselves for the qualities that set us apart from others. Each one of us has a unique role to play on this earth, and when we are critical of ourselves, we obscure it. 2. We want to stop scaring ourselves. Many of us terrorize ourselves with frightful thoughts and make situations worse than they are. We take a small problem and make it into a big monster. It's a terrible way to live, always expecting the worst out of life. How many of you go to bed at night creating the worst possible scenario of a problem? That's like a little child who imagines monsters under the bed and then gets terrified. It's no wonder you can't sleep. As a child, you needed your parent to come and soothe you. Now, as an adult, you know you have the ability to soothe yourself. People who are ill do this a lot. Often they visualize the worst, or they are immediately planning their funerals. They may give their power to the media and see themselves as statistics. You may also do this in relationships. Someone doesn't call you and immediately you decide that you are totally unlovable and that you'll never have another relationship again. You feel abandoned and rejected. You do the same thing with your job. Someone makes a remark at work and you begin to think you're going to be fired. You build these paralyzing thoughts in your mind. Remember, these frightening thoughts are negative affirmations. If you find yourself habitually reviewing a negative thought or situation in your mind, find an image of something you really would like to replace it with. It could be a beautiful view, or a sunset, flowers, a sport, or anything you love. Use that image as your switch to image every time you find that you are scaring yourself. You could say to yourself, "No, I'm not going to think about that anymore. I'm going to think about sunsets, or roses, or Paris, or yachts, or waterfalls, or whatever your image is." If you keep doing this, you will eventually break the habit. Again, it takes practice. 3. Another way is to be gentle and kind and patient with yourself. I've heard, "Dear God, I pray for patience and I want it right now." But patience is a very powerful tool. Most of us suffer from the expectation of immediate gratification. We must have it now. We don't have the patience to wait for anything. We get irritable if we have to wait in lines or are stuck in traffic. We want all the answers and all the goodies right now. Too often, we make other people's lives miserable by our own impatience. But impatience is a resistance to learning. Impatience is resistance to learning. We want the answers without learning the lesson or doing the steps that are necessary for our growth. You could think of your mind as if it were a garden. To begin with, a garden is a patch of dirt. You may have a lot of brambles of self-hatred and rocks of despair, anger and worry. An old tree called fear needs pruning. Once you get some of these things out of the way and the soil is in good shape, you add some little seeds or plants of joy and prosperity. The sun shines down on it, and you water it and give it nutrients and loving attention. At first, not much seems to be happening, but you don't stop. You keep taking care of your garden. If you are patient, the garden will grow and blossom. The same with your mind. You select the thoughts that will be nurtured, and with patience they grow and contribute to creating the garden of experiences you want. We all make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes while you are learning. As I said, so many of you are cursed with perfectionism. You won't give yourself a chance to really learn anything new because if you don't do it perfectly in the first 3 minutes, you assume you are not good enough. Anything you're going to learn takes time. When you first begin doing something, it usually doesn't feel right. To show you what I mean, take a moment right now and clasp your hands together. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Clasp your hands and notice which thumb is on top. Now open your hands and then clasp your hands again with the other thumb on top. It probably feels strange, odd, maybe even wrong. Clasp them again the first way, then the second, and the first again, and the second way, and hold it. How does it feel now? Not so odd, not so bad. You're getting used to it. Maybe you can even learn to do it both ways. It's the same thing when we are doing something a new way. It may feel different, and we immediately judge it. Yet with a little bit of practice, it can become normal and natural. We're not going to love ourselves totally in one day, but we can love ourselves a little bit more every day. Each day, we give ourselves a little bit more love, and in 2 or 3 months, we will have come so much further in loving ourselves. So mistakes are your stepping stones. They are valuable because they're your teachers. Don't punish yourself for making a mistake. If you are willing to learn and grow from the mistake, then it serves as a step towards fulfillment in your life. Some of us have been working on ourselves for a very long time and wonder why we still have issues that come up for us. We need to keep reinforcing what we know, not resisting by throwing up our hands in the air and saying, "What's the use?" As we learn new ways, we need to be gentle and kind to ourselves. Remember the garden. When the negative weeds grow, pluck them out as quickly as you can. Number